Hello, everybody, and welcome to the last edition of Nuclear Heat right here on WrestlingInc.com. I am your host, Vince Russo. The last broadcast of the year for 2015 as we move on to 2016. First and foremost, before I forget, I want to thank Raj Geary for giving me the opportunity to be part of WrestlingInc.com in 2015. Listen, I've worked for a couple of other wrestling sites, and I'll be quite frank with you. After a few months, it never works out. Because I think sometimes people get afraid of the things that Vince Russo say, and they get a little intimidated that he's going to piss some people off. And I'm sure that you know what I'm talking about. So that never really works out for me because first and foremost, I've always said this, it's honesty first with me, and then I'll deal with the consequences later. So it is very, very, very important for me to be honest with my views and opinions, and not sit on one side of the fence or the other. And, as I said, in the past, I've been associated with other sites. And, when I have some criticism towards the WWE, all of a sudden this doesn't fare well for those sites, who many of them have dreams, hopes, and ambitions of working for the WWE, so they don't want to piss them off. Well, that hasn't been the case here at Wrestling Inc. With Raj Geary and Sean. They've been great to me. They've let me be honest. We've all been honest. You can listen to any broadcast, any Raw review. And if we like something, we're going to put it over. If we don't, we're not. And we don't agree on everything, and we debate, but there is a respect for each other. And at the end of the day, there is the understanding that we want the wrestling business to be the absolute best that it can be. And if the community continues to put over things, that they may like, but other people might not like, and the masses, more importantly, might not like, then you're never going to grow the wrestling business from where it is right now. And that leads me to today's topic. And today's topic is, WWE, give the casuals Raw back. If you want to grow your audience in 2016, we need to give the casual audience its wrestling show back. We've taken it away from the casuals, and in the process, we've lost tens of thousands of not only viewers, but wrestling fans who used to look forward to Raw every Monday night. And now these people are nowhere to be found. There is a reason for that, and I'm going to explain that to you during this broadcast. And I'm also going to tell you this. You're not going to like it, because the people watching this show, the people that follow wrestling on the internet, 24/7, every day, breaking news, gossip, what's going on, these are not the people that I'm talking about. So I'm going to say some things in this broadcast that you are not going to like, because the audience that I'm a part of do not necessarily live, eat, and breathe wrestling. But again, my goal, as everybody's goal, who is, if you are a wrestling fan, this should be your goal, to bring the genre back and bring it in front of the eyeballs of as many people as possible. Yes, you can get it back to the Attitude Era numbers. I don't care what anybody says. There's a reason why it's not. And I am going to lay that out to you right here on this show in black and white. And as you know, I like to hang my hat on the, been there, done that coat rack. And I'm going to bring you back to when I first started in the WWE, when there was an internet wrestling community. The internet wrestling community was really just starting to grow then. And I'm talking about back in 1994. That's when I more or less started with the WWE on the magazine. So we're going back now. We're going into 2016. So we're looking at 22 years ago. Let me tell you how things worked back then as it related to the internet wrestling community. Then I'm going to bring you through the next 20 years so you can totally see and understand where we are now and what the problem is, because the problem is very basic and very fundamental. When I first started working for the WWE in 1994, Howard Finkel would go on the internet and he would basically take the news off of the internet of, what was being reported, what the rumors were, all the hot news. Disco Inferno likes to refer to it as the hot news. All the hot news from the internet. Now, he only used to get them from two sources going way back to 1994, and they primarily were Dave Meltzer and Wade Keller. Everybody else did not exist. And, quite frankly, to this day, a lot of them still really don't exist. Those were the guys that were around from the beginning, and those were the guys that have been doing it from day one. So Howard Finkel used to go on the internet, get all the dirt, all the hot news from Keller and Meltzer. And then what he used to do was he used to pass that around to those in management in WWE, WWF at the time, so they could see what was being said in the industry, because this was the only source outside of wrestling. And I gotta be honest with you, there were some people that were really into it. There were some people that, read it and really paid no attention to it. Bruce Pritchard comes to mind as one of the guys that really liked reading the news and, was kind of really, into all that stuff. Quite frankly, in the early days, I wasn't even on that list. I was just the editor of the magazine. It wasn't until later on that I got on that list. It was a selected few. Well, as you know, from there, I went and I started working. I started writing with Vince. I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt, if I had my Bible here, I would put my hand on it for you. When I was writing, Raw television with Vince, I never, not for a day, not for an hour, not for a minute, not for a second, I never went on the internet. I never read what the internet was saying or what the internet was reporting. My measuring stick from day one when I started writing wrestling was always the ratings. Why? It's real simple. The ratings aren't the opinion of one or two people. The ratings is the only measuring stick you have of what the masses like and what the masses don't like. That is your audience, the mass audience. Now, to break it down even further, we used to have the ratings, not only, the overall show rating, but we break it down hour by hour. We break it down every quarter hour. You break it down minute by minute. So whoever was in the ring, you would be able to see if that number was going up and down, up and down. And I studied this like a science for 5 years, when I was working at the WWE, because this is all we had. This is what told us what was working or not. It was this, and the other two was literally for me getting out in the arenas and listening to the crowd. Remember back then, I wasn't with WCW yet. I wasn't an on-air character. Nobody knew who Vince Russo was. So it was a very valuable tool for me to get out in those arenas during that time, listen to the people, see where they were really popping, see where they weren't responding, and be able to make the adjustments. But never during my time with the WWE did I allow the internet to affect my writing whatsoever. The Nielsen ratings that came in every week, the masses, what those people were saying, absolutely. We adjusted on a week-to-week schedule. And when you think about it, it's really not rocket science. Looking at those ratings, we kept giving them more and more and more of what they wanted, and we kept taking away and coming back off of what they were telling us they didn't want. So if you follow that formula, obviously the ratings are going to go up. If you give people more of what they want and you take away what they're telling you they don't want, that number is going to go up. And that's obviously what happened when we got into the Attitude Era, you know, to the year 2000, because I was only there till October of 99. I'm not going to talk about after that. So the internet was never a tool for me. And also, let me explain to you why. It's really simple. The internet wrestling community, they eat, breathe, and sleep professional wrestling. What that means is they are going to watch the show no matter what. I've said this a million times. As long as the word wrestling is in the title, they're going to watch the show. In other words, this is very key and very important. You already have those people. Those people are your built-in audience. Those people are your core audience. Those people are not going anywhere. And right now that number fluctuates from maybe 3 million to 3.5 million. So let's count that as, you know, that is the core audience. I'd say 3 million people. That's the core audience. They're not going anywhere. But, you know, back in the day, why were over 10 million people watching Raw and watching Nitro combined on a Monday night? We've gone from 10 million people to 3 million people. 7 million people have been lost in the process. Those 7 million people are the casual fans. By casual fans, this is what I mean, so you absolutely understand. These are television viewers. These are WWE viewers who tune in on a weekly basis to watch the show. They don't follow the internet. They don't follow the gossip. They don't read the spoilers. As a matter of fact, many of them don't even know it existed. Quite frankly, before I got into the wrestling business and I was a wrestling fan at 33, 34 years old, I didn't know that existed. I had no idea there were wrestling sites and, you know, these were the things that they were talking about and yada, yada, yada. Let me correct that. I had no idea of that until like 1991. When I broke into the business late in 91, you know, then, you know, I met Dave Meltzer and I knew that this community existed. As a WWE fan, a guy that, you know, went to WrestleMania 4 in Atlantic City, went to WrestleMania 5 in Atlantic City, I was not privy to wrestling being covered on the internet. So when I say casual wrestling fan, that's what I mean. I mean, people that maybe their fathers watched WWE or their grandfathers, and they were raised on this, and they were always a fan on it. But you know, they're not fanatical. They're not on the internet 7 days a week. They're not giving wrestling matches 5-star ratings. In other words, they're television viewers. If it's good, they're going to watch. If it's not good, no big deal if they miss it. That's what I'm talking about with the casual fan. Now, I will tell you this. I move over to WCW. I'm still paying no attention whatsoever to the internet. All that, whatever was going on at the time with David Arquette and whatever people were saying about me, I was oblivious to. I carried that same philosophy from the WWE over to the WCW. All I cared about was the ratings and the big chunk of people and those casual fans. Are they watching or are they not watching? When I went to TNA, that changed drastically. And I'll tell you why. It changed drastically because, you know, it was Jeff Jarrett's company. Dixie Carter bailed out Jeff, so she took over basically ownership of the majority of the company. Dixie Carter knew nothing about wrestling. Dixie Carter did not trust Jeff Jarrett, and rightfully so, did not trust anybody there. So the only place Dixie could get her opinion on wrestling was from the internet wrestling community. So she would, go on there every day, read what the Kellers and the Meltzers were saying, and all of a sudden that became her opinion. Why do I know that? Because she used to then come to us and verbatim she would say her opinion was word for word what Wade Keller, what was saying about the product. I also know she used to talk to him over the phone. And Keller used to give her his opinions. So now at that time, we had to pay attention to the internet wrestling community because we knew that was going to be Dixie Carter's next, next opinion. Yeah, we knew she was going to get it straight from the IWC and then come and tell us about it. So in order to be one step ahead of her, we had to know what they were saying and what she was going to hit us with, so we would be able to explain to a Dixie, this is why we're doing what we're doing. And unless Keller worked here, he wouldn't understand that. But now it became a part of our jobs, because this is where the boss was getting her opinion, even though to this day she will deny that. And I can tell you that is an absolute lie. Like I said, verbatim, her opinion would become what the internet wrestling community was saying. And obviously, here we are 12 years later with TNA, or however long it is, and with the internet wrestling community having such a great influence on the creative and the decision-making of TNA, well, obviously, you could see where they are now. They're on their third network, in almost as many years. I was reading something yesterday, man, that from Spike TV to Destination America, they went from almost 1 million people a week to like 250,000, or they lost 75% of their audience. And I'll never forget, this carries on with John Gaborik, who really does not know a good wrestling from bad wrestling. So him as well is depending on the internet wrestling community and their opinions. Why do I know that? Because if you go back, there's an ESPN series called Grantland. And TNA was just coming off a house show run in New York City. Okay, New York City is the home of the internet wrestling community, as is Philadelphia, as are certain states on the East Coast. It's ECW country. It's the internet wrestling community. And I'll never forget, back then, you can go back and read the quotes because I wrote about it. John Gaborik made the statement coming off of a New York City house show. He made the statement, the people have told us what we want, what they want, and it's loud and clear. They want wrestling, and we're going to give them wrestling. From that point on, TNA became a straight wrestling show, and pardon my French, the ratings went into the shitter. Why? Because John Gaborik made the decision to cater to an audience that was already there. They weren't going anywhere. He made the decision to cater to 1,000 people that were at a house show in New York City and were chanting, "This is wrestling," and were getting off to the in-ring action, and those people were already there. So from that point on, and go look, it's all documented. From that point on, the numbers went in the shitter. There used to be a saying in wrestling that I would hear over and over and over and over again, that you don't play to the house. The house is the live crowd, which is basically your studio audience. You don't play to that crowd. You play to the millions and the millions and the millions of people that are watching at home. That's what you would always hear, especially in the WWE. Well, I have to tell you this. It was no surprise to me that, Dixie Carter depended on the internet wrestling community for an opinion. John Gaborik, depended on the internet wrestling community for an opinion. That was not a surprise to me. But I will tell you this. I never in my wildest dreams, never, I would have put my livelihood on it, my reputation on it, my children on it. Never in my wildest dreams did I think that Vince McMahon and the WWE would start kowtowing to the internet wrestling community. Never in my wildest imagination did I think that the internet wrestling community would ever have any influence whatsoever on Vince McMahon and the decisions he was making creatively with his company. I never thought I'd see that because, quite frankly, when I was there, you didn't even bring it up. It didn't even matter. It was all about the millions and millions and millions of television viewers at home. Those were the people we wanted. The internet wrestling community was going to be there, whether it was good or bad. They were going to watch the show every week, and they do that every week. They, you know, they put over the same people. They bury what they don't like, yada, 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 and they're right back there the next week doing the same thing over and over and over again. Me, as a casual wrestling fan, that's the category I fall in. I've said it a million times. I would not be watching today's product if I wasn't getting paid to. If I was a kid growing up in this era of wrestling, I would not be a wrestling fan. I'm not interested in the in-ring fake fighting because that's what it is. If I want to see a real fight, I'll go to MMA. I'm interested in the characters, the storylines, and the pageantry, as are the 7 million fans that have gone bye-bye since the Attitude Era. There was a very poignant spot where I saw this develop before my very eyes. And that spot was last year's Royal Rumble. And I can't believe it was almost a year ago. But at that point in time, Vince McMahon had chosen in his mind, Roman Reigns is the guy. Roman Reigns is my next Cena. Roman Reigns is the guy I'm going to push to the moon. Vince was in love with Roman Reigns. And I'll be honest with you, I agree with that decision. I like Roman Reigns. I like the way he looks. I like his intensity. You know, he's appealing to casual fans. He's got wrestling in his bloodlines. He knows and understands the business. So I thought that was a good choice. I never had an issue with that. The problem was they so badly booked the Royal Rumble. They horribly booked the Royal Rumble. And they literally booked it in such a way that the Philadelphia crowd, arguably the hardest crowd in the United States, probably harder than New York. I mean, we all saw Brooklyn this past week, and it's hard. Philadelphia is perhaps the hardest, but they laid out the match in such a way that almost Roman Reigns was guaranteed to get booed out of the building in Philadelphia. And that's exactly what happened. They brought in The Rock. They brought in everything that they could possibly do. At the end of it, the Philly crowd booed the crap out of Roman Reigns. At that point, and I could see it, you know, as a guy that wrote for about 20 years, I sat back and watched. You could see that the game plan changed. Vince at that point let the internet wrestling community dictate creative to him. And you could immediately see in Vince's mind, Reigns is my guy. He's the babyface. That's not going to change. You're going to like him if this takes me the next 2 years to get him over. That's what was going through the mind of Vince McMahon. And you could tell at that point in time, there was a change in the creative. And they took a step back with Reigns in order to, you know, really rebuild him, you know, get the people to like him, get him over with the crowd. That was all determined by the crowd in Philadelphia that night. And like I said, they wrote it that way. They gave the fans no other choice but to boo for Roman Reigns by the time he won that match. First of all, they put Daniel Bryan in it, and he got eliminated, and he was the guy everybody wanted to win. So they should have known beforehand. Obviously, if we put a Bryan in and then he gets eliminated, people are going to be pissed off. Then the last 4 guys in the match, it was Kane and Big Show and somebody else, whatever the case may be. With the 4 guys remaining in the ring, you knew Reigns was going to win. It was the most horribly booked match perhaps I've ever seen in my life. And, of course, the fans in Philly reacted, and the WWE at that point, Vince McMahon, changed his creative to kowtow to the internet wrestling community. Now, here's the problem. The internet wrestling community is never going to be satisfied. And if you don't believe me, go back to when Roman first started getting on a roll. Everybody wanted Reigns. Everybody wanted Reigns. Everybody wanted Reigns. Within a couple of months, everybody was crapping on Reigns. The internet wrestling community is never happy. They're never so satisfied. There's always an internet darling. Kevin Owens is the internet darling. You know what? Something will happen in 2 or 3 months down the road, and all of a sudden, Kevin Owens won't be the favor of choice. That's how the internet wrestling community works. They'll never be satisfied. But let me go back to exactly what I said. They're not going anywhere. So it doesn't matter. They're always going to be there. Here's what the WWE has created. I said this the other day. I tweeted this out during the show. When you sit there and you watch the show and you listen to the cheap heat of, dogging on the Brooklyn crowd, and then you listen to any, New Day promo, the writing of this show is so freaking elementary that, literally it's written for preteens. I'm confused about this. A couple of people were asking me that, oh, Vince, you said it's elementary, then you said it's written for preteens. You contradicted yourself. Let me explain something to you. Where I went to school on Long Island, okay, you went to elementary school from kindergarten to 6th grade, okay? So you went to elementary school from the time you were 5 to the time you were 12. That's elementary. 5 to 12 is elementary, okay? After that, now you're a teenager. That's exactly what I said. So, in other words, what I'm saying is the show is written for 5 to 12-year-olds. So you got 2 bookends here. Okay, let me explain that to you. You got the kids and you got the parents that bring the kids to the show. That's your elementary level WWE. So you've got that audience, 5 to 12-year-old kids and teenagers. It's beneath teenagers. The writing of the show is beneath teenagers. So you got that to the left. Now we go to the extreme right, and now you got the internet wrestling community. All they care about is the fake fight. All they care about is the Circus Soleil. All they care about is the high spots. All they care about are the 5-star matches. All they care about are these guys injuring themselves week in and week out by doing things in the ring that are totally unnecessary. And are they grateful? Do they think they're grateful when they start chanting, "This is awesome, this is awesome"? I'll tell you what I saw in the last 2 weeks. The last 2 weeks, I saw boring chants during a Dean Ambrose match, and I saw boring chants during a Sasha Banks match. Why? Because during the Ambrose match, during the Banks match, they did not get into the high spots quick enough for the internet wrestling community. God forbid there's philosophy in the wrestling business, because quite frankly, that's what it was built on. It was all about philosophy. Well, now when the wrestlers try to incorporate the philosophy to build the match, they're getting boring chants because the fans aren't seeing the car wreck. The fans aren't seeing the guy land on his head outside of the ring. And the minute they're not getting that quick enough, now they're chanting, "This is boring." So they've totally hijacked the show. They've totally told the WWE, this is what we want. We don't want psychology in matches. We don't want characters. We don't want storylines. We want Circus Soleil. We want a stunt show. So what the WWE has done is we've got the left bookend here where it's written on an elementary level with New Day in their trombone for 5 to 12-year-olds. Then we go to the extreme right, and every match is a stunt show with stuntmen, and it's Circus Soleil, and there's no characters, there's no storyline, there's no psychology in wrestling matches. So what's missing? The entire middle. They've got the bookends to the left, they got the bookends to the right. The entire middle is missing. The crux of their audience, the meat on the bone, is not there. The 7 million people, the casual wrestling fans that dug it back during the Attitude Era. Why? Because it was a male-orientated soap opera. The show was on from 9 to 11. It was an adult-themed show because that's who watches TV from 9 to 11. Adults watch TV from 9 to 11. So if you have a kiddie show from 9 to 11, the casual wrestling fans are not going to watch it. If you have a show that is heavily concentrated on the fake fights, the casual wrestling fan is not going to watch it. If the casual wrestling fan were a fan of the actual matches, then you'd still have 10 million people watching the show. They're not a fan of the actual matches. They're a fan of everything in between the matches, which we're getting less and less of. And here was the thing that absolutely blew me away this past Monday. Vince McMahon himself put over the crowd when they started chanting CM Punk. Vince McMahon was in the middle of the ring. He heard it with his own ears. He was so disgusted that he turned to the fans and he told them to shut up. He actually acknowledged, literally, physically, he actually acknowledged the internet wrestling community. If that doesn't tell you that that's not influencing them, nothing will. Later on in the show, the big show, please retire, please retire, please retire. He acknowledged the internet wrestling community. The WWE has played right into the hands of the 5 to 12-year-olds with their parents and the internet wrestling community, and they've forgotten what means the most, and that is the casual fan, the meat and potatoes of what made wrestling so popular in the past. And here's the problem. They're so close to it that they actually believe what they're doing is good. They actually believe what they're doing is right. And if they ever made the decision to take a step away from it, they would see exactly what every other casual wrestling fan that no longer watches the show will see. And as long as we continue to cater to the kids and their parents, as long as we continue to cater to the internet wrestling community that isn't going anywhere, the numbers will continue to go down and go down and to go down and to go down. And it's real simple. Wrestling needs to get back to professional wrestling. It needs to get back to what it was when it was first conceived and what was the idea of wrestling. You know, throughout the ages in professional sports, do we have some tweaks and do we have some changes in sports? Absolutely. You know, they used to not be a shot clock in college basketball. They used to not be a three-point arc in the NBA. There used to not be a designated hitter. So things were added to sports as it evolved, but they never got away from the very foundation of what baseball, basketball, hockey, football was. The WWE has gotten away from the foundation of what professional wrestling was. They've gotten away from it. That's why Casual wrestling fans are no longer watching the product. And as I said, you know, cards, letters, tweets, twats, whatever you want, send whatever you want, because I'm barking up the wrong tree here, because like I said, casual wrestling fans are not on the internet. I'm talking to the internet wrestling community, so I'm ready to get lambasted, when the fact of the matter is I'm sitting here wanting as much people to watch wrestling as possible. The more people that watch wrestling, the more we can broaden the audience, the more everybody involved makes more money and benefits. You know, not only me, not only Wrestling Inc., but the boys themselves make more money with the more people that watch the show. It's business ethics 101. It's really easy to understand. So listen, that's it, everybody. I hope you have a great new year. Please be safe. Don't drink and drive. I hope you have the opportunity to spend it with the ones that you love. We will be back Monday night with our Raw review. And also keep in mind that you can follow me throughout the week, every day at vincerussobrand.com, where I do daily video podcasting every day of the week. So that's it, everybody, for 2015. I'll see you all in the new year.